Are you a service-based business owner looking to increase profits to fund your lifestyle? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Welcome, Adil Amarsi from Copywriting Nerd to the Build, Live, Give podcast. Brilliant having you on, Adil.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, look, I know we've sort of moved schedules to have you on, so it's great to get you here. But look, I've got to ask you two questions. The first one is always the question I ask, which is something friends or family know about you that you may not. So what's your best answer for that question?
Oh, so something my audience doesn't know that only my friends and family know about me?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So let's see. I'd say something that very few people, including my friends and family, know about me is I have synesthesia. Like, very few people actually know that I have synesthesia. I can taste colors.
You can taste colors. Tell me more.
It was a condition I've always had, and I thought it was fairly normal for people to feel that way until I got told, no, you can just see colors. And then as I got older, I realized, if I see the color blue, I know what blue tastes like. I can't describe it to anyone else because it's like trying to describe a meal to someone that's never had a meal like this before. But blue has a very, it has almost like an air watery flavor to it. It's very, very weird.
And how many people have this condition?
It's not a widely recognized. I think it's like a small percentage of the world do, like the small population of the world. Really should have looked at the actual.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure one of our listeners will look it up and put
it's 1 in 300 have a variation of it, and it's 1 in 2,000 people have synesthesias. Have it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've got to say it's the first time I've heard of it. And I'm fairly well read, so I need to read more, obviously. But how did you get diagnosed for something like that?
I stupidly did a BuzzFeed quiz. That's what started it off for me. Was I did a BuzzFeed quiz because the other thing I have is, I think it's called tetachromia, which is basically where you can see a fourth color. Can see 4 colors. Basically, if you can see a deeper color as well, tetrachromacy is what I have as well. It's where you can put 2 colors with a very slight shade gradation, like ever so slight. So you can have red and a slightly ever so slight, like a 0.1 or a 1% change in that color of text on top of that. And the majority of people will only see the color red. People with tetrachromacy can see what's being written underneath.
This superpower, how do you use this superpower for good?
I wish I could, but I really don't. It's like I use it for design work and use it for like whenever I'm looking at things, because combining the two together, the way that I came across it was I did the BuzzFeed quiz about tetrachromacy. I'm like, oh, you got to answer 20 questions and see if you got them right. I thought everyone got them right because they were so easy. I got 19 out of 20 right. I got 1 wrong. But they said if you get anything above like 18, you have tetrachromacy. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I did not realize I had tetrachromacy. That is hilariously fun. And then as I kept looking through it, I realized I actually have synesthesia because I was looking at color theory. Yes. And they're like, yeah, some people can taste color. Like a very small percentage of things. Like I looked at the numbers, it's between 2 and 4% of the world's population can taste color or has some level of synesthesia where sound translates to another, one sense translates to another sense. So Kanye West is probably one of the more famous synesthesias, people that have synesthesia. He can see music. Like when he closes his eyes, he can actually see notes being played in a song without it being in front of him. So he can see sheet music and everything. That's why he always says the most beautiful thing to him is the human voice. Like the human voice is the most powerful instrument to him.
Right. Well, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it was Mozart was meant to be similar.
Yeah.
So that's great. Well, look, I think you'll be my only guest with these 2 superpowers. So I'm so excited to finally have found you. The other question I wanted to ask was copywriting nerd. Is that given by you or other people?
Actually, surprisingly given to me by a bunch of other people. And it took me. It's just one of those crazy things where I had multiple company names for years, and then around November 2019, I went to a seminar, and after the seminar, during the seminar, one of the speakers said that you got to make sure that your company name reflects what you do. At the time, I was like, my company name does not reflect what I do because my company name is just my surname incorporated.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I got to find something. And someone was like, why don't you call it copywriting nerd? I was like, why? It's like, you're a nerd. I was like, I am. They're like, and you're a copywriter and you geek out on things like this. I was like, okay, cool. We'll just go with that. So that became my company name.
Excellent. Well, I must admit, I've had too many names to admit to as well, and it's so painful changing your brand names. But I just heard on a podcast once someone say build, live, give, and I'm like, that is me. I help people build businesses to fund their lifestyle and give back. I'm like, okay, that's it. But I think in hindsight, I shouldn't have named my company, my book, and also my podcast with the same because it gets a bit vanilla. But anyway, that's okay. So I know that you. Now, on your LinkedIn profile, it said that you started on the platform Copy Chief. So, how did you?
I didn't start on Copy Chief. I should get that correct. Copy Chief was launched by my friend Kevin Rogers, and I was one of the founding members of Copy Chief when I was there.
Excellent.
My career goes further back than that, much further back.
Yes. Okay. Well, it was only by LinkedIn.
By LinkedIn, of course. Yes.
Yeah, correct. But did you ever have, in quotations, if we had video here, a full-time job before you went down the path that you've gone?
Yeah, I've worked a few odd jobs. So just to give everyone context, so I've been writing direct mail and direct sales copy since I was 18. Professionally, I've actually done it since I was 12. But I've held a few careers. I was a chef at one point. So I worked in the kitchen for 3 years. That was fun while I was still building my business. I was a stand-up comic. I've also had some very normal jobs. I worked in retail, selling games and electronics. And also I did door-to-door selling and telesales for 2 years from 18 to 20. I did just anything that I could get my hands on that was selling, just to cut my teeth and get better at it. So that, crazy long times.
Yeah, well, I remember a friend of mine used to sell encyclopedias, and I don't know if you can get much more difficult than that. And I'm assuming they still don't even sell those things, but I think it's all electronic now. But yeah, look, that's great, and it's good to have that variety. Kevin, how did you meet Kevin?
Actually, really, so around the time I was 19 or 20 years old, so about just over a decade ago, there was another copywriter coming up whose name was Colin Terrio, guy that runs Cult of Copy. Now, Colin and I met because of an apprenticeship I was doing, and Colin and I got on like very, very well. Right off the bat, became very good friends. Around this time, Colin was hosting a show on Blog Talk Radio, and Kevin Rogers happened to be on there. Now, Kevin had been a student of the man that I considered my mentor, which is, of course, John Carlson, who gave me the basics of writing copy. And to this day, I will promote his stuff for free because he is incredible as a teacher and as a writer himself. So John and I, so Kevin was one of John's biggest students and biggest influences at the time. He was just an incredible dude. And he was also, we were all doing WSO forums at those days. We were doing like Warrior Special Offers. And so you had me who was cutting my teeth and coming up. You had Kevin who was kind of a little bit ahead of me and charging like $10,000 to $15,000. I was charging like $5,000 to $10,000 at the time, and or less, depending. It was always just a case of fluctuation of what the client would be able to do. And Kevin and I just got on one day. I asked him to be interviewed on a show that I was doing at the time, and Kevin agreed. We got on and just got on like a house on fire, and he's been my friend ever since.
Great. Well, I want to know, and I'm sure we all want to know more about you, but my quick story about Kevin is that I went to an event in Sydney. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, went to Sydney. This guy sat next to me and just had me falling off the chair all night. And, I'm sure you know how funny Kevin is, but
Kevin's hilarious.
He was absolutely hilarious. I'm not allowed to swear on my own show, but I think you can fill in the dots. And I just stayed in contact with him. He was mentored by the same guy that I was mentored, and just a brilliant guy. So Kevin, big shout out to you.
Dean Jackson?
No, it wasn't Dean Jackson. It was James Schramko.
Oh, I love James. I've had him on my show as well.
Excellent. Yeah, well, James is, he's been very good to me through my building my businesses and my health challenges. So, small world, as they say. So, John Carlson, just give us a little bit, if you can, on what you learnt from him that we can take into copywriting, I should say.
Well, the one thing that I learned from John was formatting. Actually, I learned several things from him. Formatting was the biggest one, without a doubt, on how to structure a sales letter. But it was how to basically tap into my natural ability to tell stories and use that as the way to write copy. So that's the big thing I picked up from John. In fact, a fun little fact, if you go back to a post from 2008 or 2009 on John Carlson's blog, I cannot remember which one it is, but you can see a little comment from me going, John, I love your blog so much. I have literally picked up an entire copywriting career from reading your free posts. And it was true. I got how to get writing copy by reading his blog.
Brilliant. And did he reply?
He did. He actually...
Excellent.
That's how I got to interview him. But unfortunately, John and I haven't spoken for a couple of years. I don't know why, but still a huge fan of his and always will be. I think he's just been busy. But the thing I'd say that if anyone's going to take it home and go with it would be, well, two things. One, understand how to tell really good stories. That's always the main thing. So study everything that is story and figure out how you can incorporate your own natural flair into those frameworks. And the second is understand how to create frameworks when it comes to selling or writing, because once you have a framework, it's much easier to fill a mold of how you have mentally figured out than coming up with something from scratch every single time. And the beauty of sales letters are people like, I want to change whatever it is. You can change whatever format you want, how it's presented and everything else. It's just as long as you have a basic framework in mind, it makes the whole first draft writing a lot easier.
Well, I still remember on the day after I met Kevin, because I had no idea, and he certainly didn't give me any idea the skill that he had. But when he presented the next day, he had me, writing in frameworks and little cards, and I still use those to today. But for you, what if you can give us some of an insight into what you think is a really good framework for writing a great story?
Okay, so I usually use frameworks more for writing copy, but so if I'm writing a story particularly, the frameworks I kind of lean on more than anything is it has to have a headline that makes sense. It has to have a subheadline, or in this case, a subject line if you're writing an email. But whatever the opening words are of the next sentence have to continue on from the thing you just wrote. You can't say brilliant subheadline and then dear friend. It completely loses the plot. You lose plot you don't basically take away the reader's attention. You don't change it around. Subversion, that's the word I was looking for. So the way that I do any of these things, just by the way, this alone will improve so much of what you do. Create an open loop in that first conversation, in that first paragraph. So a great example would be, say I was writing a story, or even I was writing a letter selling, give me an idea, anything that we want, what would it be? Like as an idea to something to sell.
An encyclopedia.
An encyclopedia, great. Discover how you can have the entire world's information at your fingertips whenever you want. If you're not a fan of using Wikipedia that is full of, if you're not a fan of using web browsers that are full of inaccurate information and want something that's reliable as a book that teaches you everything around shows you everything around the world from A to Z, then read every word below. I can't go into dear friend here because it would be too abrupt. The open loop that I want to use right off the opening paragraph is, it wasn't that long ago myself. That's an obvious starting point. If you don't have a starting point, it's one I rely on to begin with. It wasn't that long ago that I myself was sat there looking at my iPad wondering how much information around the internet was actually true and had been checked and validated. To my shocking surprise, that the majority of information that goes up every single moment online, there is no simple way that anyone could fact check and and basically make sure that it works or that what they're saying is true. And that's when I started to that's when I started to have a look at encyclopedias. First of all, I went to the library. I looked for the encyclopedias, didn't have any. They just kept redirecting me to Wikipedia. I went to a couple of friends. None of them had encyclopedia. In the end, I went online, checked on Amazon, and the closest encyclopedia I could get that was full, the way that I wanted it, that was updated and everything else in between, would have cost me $5,000. But in a moment, I'm going to share with you how you can not only get your own encyclopedia for less than $100, but more importantly, why having an encyclopedia not only increases your intelligence, your ability to communicate, but most importantly, the natural confidence of an intellectual, no matter where you go. But before I get into how you can achieve all this, let me introduce myself. Dear friend, or hi, my name is Adil. And then I go into the conversation of the copy. That entire opening structure alone is enough to get someone involved. But to continue the story, really, to have like what other frameworks I'd have in there, you have to have a strong opening. You have a strong introduction to who you are and why you're talking to them because they're thinking about it. Then there's a few other elements as well that I'm going to just shortly remove because I teach them in a paid program. But like the next elements are actually, you know what? No. I'm not that person. I always tend to give as much as I can. So let's go with it. I'll just give you guys the system. It's really, so it's headline, subheadline, opening paragraph, introduction to who you are. So that's strong. The story of how you came to the discovery of what you're talking about, or if it's a discovery, if it's a blog post or something, how did you come up with the idea for the blog post? Write about that. Then it's introduction to a big idea, the program, whatever it is. At this point, you introduce it. You go into depth and detail of exactly what's inside or what you're teaching, what you're sharing, what you're thinking. If it's a blog post, it's more about your thinking. If it's about emails, what you want them to do. If it's a sales letter, it's more about what they're buying. Then instead of giving the bonuses at this point, you give the testimonials because now it validates what you're doing. If you're doing a blog post, you'd give a quote at the section just simply because it validates your point even further. Then from that, that's where blog posts kind of end. You can have a call to action. That's about it, realistically, and like a summary. But if you're doing a sales letter from here, off the testimonials, you now have the price. You have the price reveal. Then from the price reveal comes the price justification. From justification comes guarantee. From the guarantee, you then have the bonuses. And the reason you put your bonuses after the guarantee is because, quite simply, if someone decides they're going to buy your program, a bonus is going to do nothing but seal the deal. If they are thinking about it but not 100% sold, then the bonuses should act as a way of getting people to buy from you. It goes from maybe to a yes. And if it's a no, it knocks them onto a maybe. From there, you have bonuses, and then finally you have you essentially summarize everything, or reclose as I like to call it, where you go back through what they're getting, what's involved, what the big reasons are, the summary. Then finally, after you've done the reclose, you have the sign off and the PSs. And the PSs have a very special place because each PS has a different meaning. Specifically, one is a summary, one is a goading on of like possible competitors, and the third is telling them to take action today. So it's a scientific way that I've broken down sales letters based on human conversation. And something I don't really talk about very often, but I will as an exclusive to your show. In the last 12 years, I've spent no less than $50,000 US or £30,000 UK having people go through MRI machines and CAT scans so I can look at their brains while I'm reading copy to them.
And I just, firstly, I've got to say that's fantastic. And I think you've got some applause in the background. We're all living in, COVID times at the moment. I know you've got 4 cats, so I can hear them cheering.
Oh, that's just
what a wonderful framework that you've just given us. It's absolute gold. And I
apologize for one of my cats in the back.
No, well,
this is me.
They were as excited as I was. So look, that's brilliant. I really appreciate that. And I think now we can wrap up because that's covered everything that I wanted to ask. No, in all seriousness, that is brilliant. It'll be in the show notes, people. That is gold. Okay. These, like you said before, these frameworks, you can put your own narrative in these frameworks, but these frameworks are gold. And you just got a lesson from someone who's been taught by John Carlson, is worked with Kevin Rogers. Like this is copywriting gold here. So I've got a couple of questions based off your LinkedIn profile. Okay. So I love the if you can afford me. Right. So I've never seen that on someone's at the bottom of someone's LinkedIn profile. So I just want to get a bit of an insight as to why you do that.
It's a positioning tool, but also the amount of people that think that a copywriter doesn't charge as much. And then I give them my fee and then they look at me as if I've told them they have cancer. It's that dumbfounded look. So by putting that if you can afford me, it's just that the people that do decide to reach out to me, they're like, oh, let's see if I can afford him. And usually they have a minimum that I know they can put on. And most of the time, my clients tend to hit that minimum premium. And whenever I ask, it's like, and I have tested against removing that and keeping it there. And keeping it there still produces a higher quality of client for me than taking it away.
Excellent. And the other question then is around, you put there saying, 100, some of the examples you had results, which I thought were great. And you said, I helped build a $100,000 marketing agency in London, or I helped them increase $100,000. And I'm thinking, well, how did you do that? So I'd be interested, because it certainly enticed me, but, how did you come about, creating success for that marketing agency?
Oh, I basically wrote the copy for their recruitment. That was all I did. I looked at their entire systems and process for recruiting in the right marketing people, switched it around. Because the problem was that the agency had an organization problem where the top end, the CEO was writing all the copy. They were doing all the recruiting. They had outsourced their finance, but they were stressed out. They were working the most and the hardest out of everyone else in their agency, because they had to be on every sales call, they had to be on every copy call, they had to do whatever it was that was going on. So in the end, they just found they were burning themselves out. So in the end, when I walked in, initially they hired me to come in as a consultant to help their copywriters improve their writing ability. And I looked at him and said, he's a friend of mine. I was like, look, dude, you're burning yourself out quite badly. Your agency is going to shut down in a year because you're flagging now and you're only like 3 months in. At this point, they brought me in 3 months in. I was like, you're 3 months in from when we had the first discussion about this, where you said to me that you're feeling a little bit tired, and now you're flagging very hard. By midday, you want to take a nap. It's not normal for you. So all we did was put in systems and process that he brings in the right salespeople that can close for him. He brought in the right marketing people that could market for his clients. And most importantly, we looked at his output for his creativity. So we started changing the messaging around what he was putting out, because the message he was trying to attract was more of a wide audience. We niched it down to his favorite clients, kept most of his old clients, but decided to add 3 new clients in. And that generated $100,000 a month for him, just from those 3 clients, because they were like, cool, we want all the stuff from you. So he basically worked with them.
Excellent. And look, I've heard different opinions, but some people say you should have an exact number. Like for me, as an example, I've mentored 257 people versus, a round number, and you use, $100K a month. What's your perspective on that?
Oh, for sure. Use actual numbers when you have them. I just didn't have the numbers. If I'd asked him, how much money did I make you realistically? He was like, well, and also this is another little thing that I do know with some agencies, is they'll give you a round number because it's easier to divide if there's a dividend. So we do it that way. They do it that way. But yeah, if I could give a specific number, it's the same thing with my other moniker that I have, which surprisingly, Stefan Georgi and I both share, which is the $700 million copywriter. But by the end of 2020, I think that's going to turn to an 8, because we're closing in on $800 million for my clients that I've made. I've made my clients say, well, over $700 million, but close to $800 million in sales. The only reason I can't sit there and write, it's 782,100 and something, like $192,363.27 or something like that. It just seems, while it's exact, because the number's constantly growing, I won't be able to update it the same way. So just, again, with that, it's easier to give a round number.
Great. And we've talked about an agency, but who else do you love to work with? Who are the people that you get the best results for?
I love working with people that have mailing lists that they haven't mailed for a while, that have a decent offer and they don't know what they're doing, or if they're a personal brand and they're really looking for a way to build their business, or they've hit a plateau, they've hit the 6-figure or close to 6-figure mark, and they're working all hours of the day and they don't know how to like leverage themselves. That's why I like to come in. I just love to come into that point and be like, right, let me show you how to do this, because you've got all the assets, you've got all the pieces, let's put them together.
Well, I've definitely could tick those through. So maybe we should talk post this for sure. But I'm about to launch a personal brand. I don't think it'll be launched by the time this podcast goes live. But I'm going to have paulhigginsmentoring.com, and then I'm going to keep Build, Live, Give as the product. And I know you do a similar thing. So just and I know a lot of people, talk about should I have only a company brand? Should I have my own brand? Certainly for me, Coke, it was always it's always about the product, not the person. What's some experience that you can share to help people on a decision like should they launch their own personal brand and also have a product?
I'd say yes to that. So have a personal brand and have a umbrella. So I say have an umbrella idea at the start. So I have like Copywriting Nerd Ltd is part of an umbrella company that I own. So I have my main company, and Copywriting Nerd Limited is one arm of it. And the reason for that is because that's agency work. That's more to do with the brand of what we can sell later down the line. Whereas my other stuff is all under Adil Amarsi. And the reason why it's under Adil Amarsi is because I don't ever think I'll stop doing the work that I'm doing, because I've done it for so long. I love the work I do. And it's a personal brand. Like if you went out and said, okay, cool, I'm looking for Copywriting Nerd Limited. People would, Copywriting Nerd, they were like, okay, we kind of know who that is. But if you turn around and said, hey, I'm looking for Adil Amarsi, it's so much more direct. So I do like, if you're a coach or a business that works one-on-one with a close number of people, build a personal brand, because that's what it is that will help you the most in that point. Especially if it's something that you're looking to do long-term and do for the rest of your life, build as a personal brand. If it's something that you're looking at to eventually sell, put it under a company name or a moniker.
Yeah, well, look, for me, definitely, I'm lucky enough to exit 2 businesses now. And, this Build, Live, Give is very, very much tied to me, etc. But I do want to set it up that someone else can run it, and then I can do, other ventures. I want to launch a SaaS-based product at some point and do other things under the personal brand. So that's good advice. And anything that I should watch out for, like one which is very practical, is which email address. Do you use your Copywriting Nerd, or do you use your personal Adele one?
I use my personal one most of the time. So the reason I have it set that way is I've dedicated different email addresses for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So my main adilamarsi.com email address, that is all client work, podcasting, personal brand running stuff goes through there. My Hotmail account, which, yes, I still have a Hotmail account, is for setting up old times. But I use that because it's linked to my old business PayPal account. So it's hilarious when businesses see what my PayPal address is and like, that can't seriously be your address. I'm like, it is. And I'm quite proud of it. Just to give you guys an idea, it's adil.awesome@hotmail.com, because why the hell not? Yes. That is my whole moniker. And I just did a video in August about why the nickname The Awesome came about, and how I didn't give myself that nickname. That nickname was given to me by a fellow salesperson when I was doing door-to-door sales, well over a decade ago.
Great. But, I thought you were going to say your cats, but look, that's
I wish
that makes sense. But look, you can definitely we'll move into the live section, but you can find out more at so it's Adil, so it's adilamarsi.com. Now that's obviously going to be all in the show notes, but there's so much value you can grab straight away that that's the email address. And before we go into the live section, I would just like to talk about how you can get 3 to 5 new clients a month on LinkedIn by spending 30 minutes a day, even if you don't know where to start and have limited marketing funds. Just go to blgclick.com and watch the on-demand masterclass. You'll learn the secrets to the secret formula to get 10 times the views, 7 secrets to get 50 likes and 20 comments on every post, because there's nothing worse than crickets. And the third is the scripts to get 80% response rates to your LinkedIn messages. Just go to blgclick.com and watch now. And also, a lot of these activities can be done by a virtual assistant, not you. If you don't have one or want to learn more about it, just go to buildlivegive.com/VA. So what are some of the habits that help you be successful?
I try and make sure that I take time off. This is kind of a thing that took me a lot of years to get right. Understanding when to take time to relax and when not to take time to relax has been very instrumental to my success. Specifically, ensuring that I'm not working 18-hour days, like 8-hour day type of days consistently all the time, because that used to be what my schedule was. I'd get up at I'd sleep for 4 to 6 hours, I'd wake up, and I'd probably be working most of the time. If I wasn't sat in front of my computer, I had a notepad and pen where I was taking notes about things. If that wasn't the case, I was reading a book or listening to a podcast. I was basically in the matrix the entire time. So one of the habits that really helped me around that was taking time away and finding things that I love to do and doing those. So for instance, one of my big loves in life is cooking, and the other one is digital art. So I spend a lot of time doing both. And again, these aren't things I share publicly. These aren't things that I put online for shares and reviews and stuff. These are just things I do for me.
Yeah, look, I think that's so important. And, you said before the agency owner was having a nap and, it was time for you to help. I actually, I endorse naps. So I don't know if you've seen the Seinfeld where George has a sleep under the desk. But for me, every day I spend 10 minutes meditating and 30 minutes having a nap. And I, have a lot of clients all around the world, so I'm working early mornings, late nights. But that nap is absolutely sacrosanct. And when I got down to 6% kidney function.
Wow.
And one of the most important things I realize is just the power of sleep. So I've kept that. Now that I've got a healthy kidney, everything's great. I've kept that. So look, I think time off is absolutely essential. So the next section is the give section. And I normally get guests to talk about a charity community they're passionate about and why. But I know that you've got ambitions to set your own charity up. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that.
I haven't named it yet, but it's a charity I've had in mind for a long time. It's actually to open up a self-sustaining orphanage in Tanzania, specifically for kids that have their parents don't have the means to look after them. So it's not really an orphanage per se. It's more like a place where kids can go be educated, have food, play games, be around other kids and their peers. But it's all taken care of by me, rather than just you have to pay for it to happen. It's no, we make sure that all the resources are taken care of. And the reason I chose Tanzania in particular is because that's where I was born. So giving back to my hometown and my home country, really.
Well, how long did you spend in Tanzania?
It's strange, but I lived there until I was 4. But I traveled a little bit as a baby. So I lived there until I was 4. I've lived in the UK since I was 4. With a few stints here and there and a few other places, but mostly in the UK. But it's still it's a huge cultural part of me because my parents never let me forget where I'm from. So I still speak all my languages. I still act and am as Tanzanian as you can be, except for, granted, I don't sound Tanzanian, which is always funny to fellow Tanzanians when I speak Swahili. Because you don't sound like one of us, but you are.
So give us a little bit of Swahili.
Okay, so you guys already know the Lion King, which is Hakuna Matata, but there's other words in Swahili that are inside the Lion King. So I'll give you guys a few things there. So Rafiki actually means friend. Simba means lion. And my personal favorite, Shenzi, as in the hyena played by Whoopi Goldberg. Shenzi actually means stupid. So if I was saying something to someone about the Lion King, it would be something like... or if not even Lion King, I was just saying something to someone, as in that person is very stupid, but they're also my friend. The translation to that would be, Yule mtu yupo mshenzi sana, it's very stupid. Unajua yupo rafiki yangu tu. And that means they're also my friend.
Excellent. Well, there you go. That's another one. I don't know if I get someone else from Tanzania on, but there's a lot of firsts in this episode today. But I've got a burning desire to go there, so I'll talk to you about that more afterwards. And look, I've got a charity that all my book proceeds go to, and also a portion of my revenue. So that's the way that I give back. It's called the Purple House. Just go to purplehouse.org.au to find out more. So the last is the rapid fire response. So I'll give you 4 questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
My top 3 personal effectiveness tips would be, I'm guessing this is in life and in business.
Yes.
Number 1,
aren't they one?
Usually tend to be. Integrity. Integrity is a big thing for me. Saying what you do and doing what you say. Granted, I have screwed this up many a time. But the truth is, as long as you own it, as long as you speak to the people that you say that you do something, and you get past that angst of communication, which took me a long time to do as well, life is so much better with it. People trust you more, you trust yourself more, and you can set boundaries far quicker. Because if someone says, I need this done by Thursday, and you're like, actually, I won't be able to do it by Thursday. Why? I have so many more plans. And if we agree to do it on Thursday, what you're essentially saying to me is that you're looking for me to disappoint you.
Yes.
So if you move this to a Tuesday, yes, it's a couple of days more, but it also means that I get a little bit more time to do what I need to do to apply my own creativity, come back and do a great job. Great. How does that sound?
Excellent. Number two.
Number 2 off of that. So you got integrity is number 1. Number 2 would be, make sure that you take naps. I know I said something about naps earlier, but it's taking the right type of nap. And I was going to say this because when you said it as well, the way Paul and I both nap is I make sure I have sufficient sleep at night, but I make sure I give myself time during the day when I feel relaxed to have a 20-minute power nap. Or if I'm struggling with something, I take a 20-minute power nap after doing a small walk. It's always powerful and it's good for refreshing the brain. Number 3, the effective thing is never stop learning. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, so we'll put it another way. Always be a voracious learner, someone that enjoys learning things. Read books, look at movies, look at podcasts, look at every single bit of aspect of what is around you, and be very, very hyper aware, and take some training to how that makes you feel emotionally. If it's making you feel emotionally negative, stay away. If it's making you feel emotionally positive, keep doing. If it's something that's emotionally negative but drives the hell out of you, well, guess what? Go ahead and do that. Make sure that you use and harness that negative motivation to make things work for you. And basically, real quickly, as a side note to this, John Carlson's reason to this is quite true, because I'm very similarly programmed. I tell me that that I can't do something, and I will do all I can to make sure that I do it.
Yes, I'm sure your parents would have loved that at an early age. So what's a piece of tech that is essential to running your business?
A single piece of tech would be my MacBook Pro, but a single piece of software to running my business would probably be Zoom.
Yes, and hasn't that become a hot ticket of late? And your best source of new ideas?
Books. A lot of books. You guys won't be able to see this, but I am just very quickly going to turn on my camera so Paul can see this, and I'll send him a photo afterwards. So, hi, Paul. If you look over my shoulder, that is the collection. Yes, and I have about 12 more books on my desk where we're speaking right now. So I'm a voracious reader, and that's where I get all my ideas from. Is I just continuously read, watch, listen, immerse myself with people around me. And the key thing is, don't let yourself get niched down into one thing and one thing only. One of the joys I've had is I've written for well over 400 markets. So...
yeah, that's brilliant. And look, I must admit, my version now, because I used to move so often, is podcasts. I collect, as you collect books, I collect podcasts. And one of the other quick reasons for that is when I was really sick, I just couldn't read. I couldn't stay awake. So,
Wow.
And it was very dangerous to use an iPad. I tried to read some books on Audible, and it just, I got a big scar once from the iPad dropping on my head because I fell asleep. But anyway, this is about you, not me. So I've left the big question to the very end. So what impact do you want to leave on the world?
What impact do I want to leave on the world? Big question. For me, it's part of my purpose, and that is my mission in life is to inspire others, including myself, to feel embraced, happy, wanted, loved, and empowered by simply showing up and helping them in any way that I can.
Beautifully
said. So that's
said.
the impact I want to leave.
Beautifully said. So, look, you've given so much value, that framework, the way you did that, the open loop. So please, go back, listen to this multiple times and share the love, okay? Share it to others because, as he said, he doesn't often give out this. So you've got absolute gold here. You can also get a great piece to help you write emails better. So you can go to storysellingemails.com. So, and also the podcast is Adil Amarsi Unplugged. So you can also go there and listen to his beautiful tones on the air. So an absolute joy having you on the podcast. And I know I'm going to come to you because I definitely have a mail list that's unused. I've got offers that aren't doing enough, and I've definitely launching my personal brand. So we'll be talking more.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for accommodating the slight time change we had today.
My pleasure. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please share it and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.